and thank you for joining us for another episode of Fort Worth Roots. You can find Fort Worth Roots on all of your favorite streaming services, Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. You can catch us on YouTube or any other social media site as Fort Worth Roots. If you're watching this week's episode on YouTube, you'll see this really awesome shirt I'm wearing. It's an 817 Funky Town shirt, and you can get the same shirt online at fortworthroots.com. Go to our Trusted Sponsors tab, click on that, look for Crew Wear. If you don't want it in black and white, you can get it in any other color you want, even TCU purple. Go check that out, fortworthroots.com. Look for our Trusted Sponsors tab, where you can see all of our sponsors for the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Select Crew Wear and find the t-shirt that you can't live without. Today's episode is an exciting one with a gentleman that we've been trying to get on the show for quite some time now. He's a pillar of the Fort Worth music community, a world traveler, and just an all-around interesting guy. We, of course, also have our new regular co-host, Eilrich, and this week's episode comes with a special happy birthday wish to one Rachel Kelly, our newest Fort Worth Roots monthly contributor. She decided to be a supporter of the show independently, and she's going to get one of our stainless steel coffee mugs as a thank you, and she'll be included in every single one of these episodes now in the show notes as a regular monthly contributor. So happy birthday, and thank you for being a part of our community, Rachel Kelly. Stay tuned to the very end of this episode because we do have some music recorded in studio by our friend, and then provided to us so that we could air this out for you guys here on the Fort Worth Roots podcast. So stay tuned to the very end of the show for that. Also, some more information about events that we have coming up and all of our sponsors. That's enough talking out of me. Thank y'all so much for being here. You can find our guest on Instagram as Keegan Mcinroe Music. Please give it up for our friend, Mr. Keegan Mcinroe. And let's start the show. All right, welcome to another episode of the Fort Worth Roots, and I'm here with Keegan Mcinroe, a Fort Worth legend, singer-songwriter, musician.
A loose interpretation of that word, maybe. Infamous, maybe?
I've got one more nickname for you. Have you heard me use it?
I don't know if I have.
I dropped it in a couple of intros and a couple of descriptions, probably 3 or 4 weeks after your subterfuge. I was calling you strong word. I was calling you sneaky ass Keegan.
I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. Well, I was driving. If I remember correctly, I was driving. It was nighttime, and I was driving to my mom's house in Dublin, Texas. Mm-hmm. And I had my earbuds in, but I leave the little connected thing there, and I had them in, and I was about to, but I realized I could still hear y'all. And I thought, well, this is kind of cool. This is like being like backstage, Yeah. So I wasn't thinking. I'll just sit here.
So to set the scene for our listeners, we were in here with Matthew Broyles and Trista, mm-hmm. and we were doing our little interview, and we had set up the call line so that anybody that was watching live could give us a call, and be part of the show for a minute. We got a few phone calls here and there, and then all of a sudden Keegan Mcinroe. I'm like, oh man, I know about this guy. This is awesome. So I was excited to have Keegan Mcinroe, and so we had a little conversation with you, and then after a minute or two, I was like, all right, well, Keegan, be safe on the road, watch out for those deer. We got to get back to the show, and we went back to doing what we were doing, and 30 minutes later.
Oh, I don't think it was that long. Maybe
2 hours later.
The next day,
we heard
I'm in your bedroom. Hey,
popped out of the closet. Keegan,
been here the whole time. No, it was maybe 10 minutes. It was maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Do you remember what gave you away? Because I do.
Was it road noise?
It was the blinker.
Oh, the blinker. That's right.
You were getting off the highway and you turned on your blinker, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Is that a blinker? And then you were like, yeah, I'm still here.
Well, gave it away. I mean, I wasn't so really hiding so much as I just wasn't seen.
Yeah. So you earned
sneaky ass cat. It's all right.
Earned a little nickname for a few weeks following
I think one of my first nicknames that I remember was I was probably like around 3, and I was Sneaky Snake. I would steal my dad's pen out of his pocket when he wouldn't notice. So I apologize for that.
Oh no, it was priceless, man. It wrecked the show for the next 10 minutes because we couldn't stop talking about it. It was so funny. So
yeah, well, it was a good way to. I wanted on the show. It was a good way to get on here.
Yeah.
See, now here I am.
There you go. Yeah. We'd have had you on anyway, because you are, whether you'll admit it or not, kind of an icon here in Fort Worth. You're a pillar of the musical community here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, I think maybe if anything, I've just been around a while. I think as long as if you're around a while and you don't go away, then.
That's what happens.
That's what happens. Yeah, and so there's a lot of great. I mean, it's such a rich town with musicians and artists of all sorts, and such a cool creative community. And so there were people that when I guess maybe 2000 and I moved here in 2001 when I graduated high school to go to TCU, and started playing music in bars probably around 2002 or so. And Jeff Daisy was with me at TCU around that time, and he was coming up in bands. And Mark Lettieri, he played a show. I remember one time as a drummer, he had these black drumming gloves on, and Mark Lettieri from Snarky Puppy. And so we were all and of course a lot of these people have gone on to, Mark's I was traveling around some obscure place one time, and somebody started talking to me about a Snarky Puppy. And somewhere in Europe, and I was like, "Really?" And
Europe?
Yeah, and but this was like years and years ago.
Yeah.
Now they've blown up for real, but even then it was. So there's all kinds of people from here that have just branched off and done all kinds of cool things, and then a lot of people, and talk about this with friends a lot, that get families and have jobs and kind of don't leave the scene maybe necessarily, or move off and do leave the scene, but just life happens, and it's hard to stay cool with just basically being the artist thing is a hustle and a grind a lot of times, and so it kind of just like, well, that was cool, but now I'd like to have a kid and a house and a TV and whatever,
some earthly possessions,
some stability perhaps, and so a lot of people kind of do slowly drift out of the scene a little bit, and if you're just there long enough, people be like, oh, this guy, when I got here he was here too, and that's like, so for me there's people like Guthrie Kennard, and of course James Hinkle. I'd seen him forever and didn't meet him till years after I'd seen him, and now we're good buddies and doing a Halloween thing together. And,
nice.
But yeah, so I think it's probably that's the longevity of just not going away is more than anything than legend of any sort.
Part of that stability that our musician friends are always chasing comes from trying to get a solid gig, something that's going to be like a weekly staple that they can count on for a little bit of change that they can factor into their budget. Whenever you started playing in 2002 after moving here for TCU, did you have any regular gigs?
So
what do they call that, by the way? I'm blanking. Residents, yeah.
Yeah. And those can be kind of double-edged swords there, but that could be another thing. To answer your question, so football was like my life growing up. As a kid, I was I loved football, and I played football, and I got a guitar when I was about 17 because before football games, I was listening to the American Beauty album by the Grateful Dead in 9th grade on repeat, and I was like, I want to play music. So I turned into a total hippie and got into the Grateful Dead and got a guitar, but really didn't take it seriously. Never would have thought I'd be doing it professionally. I wrote poems and before I got a guitar, so it was kind of natural to start writing songs.
Were you a total deadhead?
I was total
wearing
deadhead. Well, not him, tie-dye. I was like a uniform for me for like for years, through high school and into college even. Tie-dye shirts, for sure. And anyway, I had a realization one day in philosophy of mind class. I looked down, I had this really bright tie-dye shirt on. I think it was the first time maybe I'd ever smoked and gone into college or something, class one or whatever. But I looked down, and it's just this big bright tie-dye shirt hitting. I think out of the tie-dye was like a dancing bear face you could make out of it. And I just thought, I am not this damn happy and bright. What am I doing? Like, why am I? So the tie-dye quickly just started fading out of the wardrobe. Yeah. But anyway, so when I got to TCU, I knew I wasn't going to play football, and I started playing music, kind of became my outlet. And I had a fake ID that said I was from Des Moines, Iowa. think there's some sort of 7-year thing where you can talk about this stuff, right? This has been many more than 7 years.
Statute of limitations.
Yeah. That's it. Statute of limitations is passed. Yeah. But I was from Des Moines, Iowa, and I would drink regularly in this bar across from TCU called Schooners at the time. And I got to talking one night with this guy that ran the place, and he said, well, if you want to play, because people have been saying, oh, you should play in a bar sometime. We're playing at little house parties, drift off. And he says, well, if you want, to play here, I'll give you $50 and all the whiskey you can drink. And I said, yes.
Can't beat that.
Yes.
Especially in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I think my first gig was on a Wednesday. And so for the first year, probably I just randomly, I would play there. There was no regularity to it, but often. And then, there was a guy, Marcus, I think, what's his last name? I can't remember his last name right now, but he was one of the managers. He had a drum kit up there, and there was one night these 3 different drummers came and it was sloppy.
Yeah.
But this one sloppy drummer and me, we decided, hey, there's something here, and we started Catfish Whiskey out of that situation at Schooners that night, which is my first band in Fort Worth.
Nice.
And then Catfish Whiskey did have a regular Thursday thing, Catfish Whiskey and Friends. We did at the Moon.
What was the drummer's name?
Matt Lombard was the original drummer of Catfish Whiskey. And he said, well, my sister's dating a guitar player who was Michael Maftian. And I said, well, I know a bass player, and the bass player I knew is a guy, Cole, who I hadn't seen in years, but I saw in Nashville recently. Davis, I think is his last name. But Travis Dixon was living with us, and somebody had just left an acoustic. He was a guitar player, but somebody had just left an acoustic bass there to go traveling or something. So he had this acoustic bass. So that's how the band started. And then one day we woke up, and Trip Mathis was laying on a Papa Sun chair, and his crazy feet were up in the air. And I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he was basically like, well, the guys asked me to join the band. I was like, what do you do?
You got the wrong kind of feet, bro.
It was like a hobbit had fallen, stumbled in from the Shire and found his way onto our Papa Sun chair. And no lie, he was, I was very confused how he got there. I think he was friends with Travis, somehow Dixon. And he told me that basically, the band had asked him to join. And years later, the band told me, oh, well, he said that you had asked him to join. So basically,
he just
sneaky ass Trip. So it was sneaky. But so anyway, Catfish Whiskey had a regular thing, and that was cool. And then and before that, when I studied in London for a semester, and so when I came back from London, it was my second semester, my senior year. I'd been doing an open mic night in London I really liked, and I started one at Texadelphia that I did for a weekly thing there.
This is in London?
No, that was when I got back to Fort Worth. So I studied in London for a semester. I was doing this open mic night there that really, actually that's what made me decide, oh, maybe there's something to me being able to play music. These aren't my drunken friends. These are people from all over the world that are...
And they're digging it.
They're digging it, yeah. And it's like, why are they... I don't know why, but maybe this is actually... Because before that, it was just how drunk can we get before we get to the bar to play music. There was nothing serious about it for me. It was just a party, it was something to do. I thought I was going to be a teacher. I was going to go learn Spanish and be a philosophy professor or something.
Let's come back to London here in just a minute before we get too far away.
Yeah.
That was
all about regular gigs. You got to be...
That's okay.
First thing in the morning, my brain's still trying to catch up with myself.
I love it. I could literally just sit here and let you talk for an hour. I feel like we could make a full episode like that. But I've got questions.
Okay.
So before you came to TCU, you said 01, 02, something like that?
Yep. I graduated high school in 01.
And where did you move from? Was it Des Moines?
Lubbock.
Oh, Lubbock.
No, I had nothing to do with Iowa. I don't know
why.
You
just had a Des Moines.
You put on a piece of paper, this is my name, this is my height, this is my hair color, this is my eye color, and they send you back something from somewhere that would scan. It would have all the things on it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Over 7 years ago, by the way, folks.
Yeah. This was 2001.
For any of you alphabet boys out there.
That's right. This was a long time. And I don't have any names.
Right.
There's no money trail. Don't look for
it. Please don't.
I don't know if I'm supposed to admit this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know either. By the way, this is for entertainment purposes
only. Yes,
everything we say is an absolute lie.
The name on there is McLovin.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
This is sneaky ass Keegan.
Way back in the day. Yeah, I was a little sneakier then.
So up in Lubbock, is that where you grew up, most of it?
Yeah, I grew up, my mom was from Levelland, Texas, which is near, and about 30 miles west of Lubbock. And she had moved to Arizona after she graduated because her sister had gone there. And so she met my dad in Arizona. They got married. They had me in Scottsdale. And about 6 months old, they moved to San Francisco or just outside. And I was there till I was about 2. And then my mom moved back to Texas. And when I was 4, she married a guy in Lubbock. And so from the age of 4 to 18, I was in Lubbock.
Yeah.
All elementary, junior high, high school.
Yeah.
You know, spent a lot of time out in Level Land, riding horses on the farm, blah, blah. But a lot of time in Lubbock. And so, yeah, I moved in 01 to go to TCU.
So you can ride horses?
Oh, I can ride a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty good on a horse.
That's a good skill to have here in Fort Worth, Texas.
It's a good skill to have anywhere.
Yeah.
Except in Europe, most people ride English saddle, and that's a beatdown. There's only a few places.
What is the difference?
So it's the difference between like a sofa and a pogo stick. like a Western saddle is like it's made to be worked in.
Yeah,
it's bigger, more comfortable.
Yeah, it's like
English
it's
is very small.
It's every saddle you've seen in the States, pretty much, except the ones that they ride when they're jumping over little fences. It's the perchy one. You know, they're clearly not doing cattle work that day. You know,
you're meant to be on that thing for maybe 15 minutes.
But that's predominantly what you find. And what I find in Europe, there's very few Western riding places in Europe that I've found.
How crazy.
Yeah.
So you get on a saddle up there for the first time, and you're like, what?
Yeah, the English saddle's way different. I don't feel, I would rather be bareback than with an English saddle like that. It's just very
rigid.
And it's, you know, I mean, things get in the way. You know? I'm sure there's a certain outfit you're supposed to wear to kind of like mitigate some of that. But
what's the, it's not ergonomic. Is that the right term?
Ergonomic.
Ergonomic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are things that don't suit me. A regular Western saddle, which is fairly comfortable, can be hard enough if you spend enough time in it. But those saddles over there, that's tricky. I mean, sure, if you're used to it, it's the way to go. You know?
I like your analogy, though. It's the difference between a sofa and a pogo stick.
It really is. It feels like you're just, you know.
So you end up in London for a year. You're doing
a semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably about 6 months max.
I went over. It was actually 2004, so I went over the August of 2004, and I came back December.
Okay,
and
fairly short stint.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, of course, the older you get, time seems to just like 4 months now seems like, oh my God, I got to hurry up and get this done. I got this thing to do.
Back
4
then,
months.
it felt like a lifetime.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
A semester was like 10 years. You know, like, this semester ever going to end? You know.
Yeah.
But a lot happened. It was definitely. I was taking a full 15 hours, but I only had class on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I was taking 2 classes, independent study with professors at TCU, and then I was taking 3 classes there, and then I had like Monday nights I had to go and see a play for one of my classes. So I would a lot of times, you know, like Wednesday night I'd go to the airport and then just go somewhere in Europe on one of these cheap flights and then, you know, come back on Monday afternoon or whatever, or just party there. I met we lived in Chelsea. The student housing was in Chelsea, and there was a place called Bosun's Locker, which was this pirate, but it was not pirate, but it was like a nautical themed, very piratey, nautical themed basement bar.
The whole time you're like, oh yeah, not pirates.
Yeah, not pirates, it's nautical. Okay. And so
I've got an eye patch over there.
But I made this great friend named Andrew Balkwell. He lives in London, still playing music. Andrew Balkwell, look him up, he's great. But he ran this open mic, and he didn't live near there. He had to take, I think it was like 6 buses back and forth to get like the PA there.
Damn.
And to get he was dedicated to making this happen.
That's beyond dedication.
That's beyond dedication.
That's neurotic.
Yeah. He was serious about it.
Wow.
And there was a West Cornwall pasty shop above it. But anyway, but a lot of the students would come down there, and I discovered it. There was a woman that was like the liaison with TCU, because it was like the TCU London Center.
Yeah.
And so the woman that was like the liaison to make sure all the students are kind of like, you know, not totally lost. Lisa Thompson, an awesome woman. She introduced me to this place. She was like, "You're gonna love this place," and you know, we got to go there on an open mic. So we went down there and had a few pints, and I was like, "Yeah." So I started playing there all the time, and then when the semester ended, I stayed over with Andy and his roommate at the time, and stayed another couple weeks, and just had a great time. Was kind of seeing this lovely South African woman. I did miss my flight, actually. I did miss my flight. I got there like an hour before it left, 45 minutes, and I was like, "Can I still?" And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, "No, you can't. We can't even get your bag anywhere near this. You know, this is Heathrow Airport. You can't show up 45 minutes before your flight. That's not going to work internationally. You know, like no."
There's a joke here about Keegan showing up late for things, but we're going to glaze past that one.
I've missed a few things.
I've got some questions about London. We're talking about maybe taking a trip to London.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe around March time frame. Is there anything specific? Like if there's one or two things that we absolutely have to check out, what would you suggest? I know that's going to be a can of worms, but...
Well, London's like, I think you could live 8 lives in London and never see every nook and cranny of London. I mean, it's just so intricate, and I would be completely overwhelmed if I hadn't spent. I mean, I still am, but like, it's like when I show up in Paris and like I don't know anything, and it's just kind of overwhelming. Then there's a little bit with the language, but in London, it's also this just massive, enormous. I mean, there's sinners, of course, but it's just it's so old, and it's grown up and with so many different various fires and tragedies and things that have grown up on top of each other and all these little just places. But so it's hard. But I will say that and it changes, of course. So I'll say what my favorites have been over the years. Like Camden Town is
Camden Town.
Camden Town,
okay,
which is where
like
Amy Winehouse was from. Yeah, it's like Fairmount,
okay, yeah,
kind of thing. It'll be a stop on the tube. You can find Camden Town. It seems like the what goes up there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyway, so that's a really cool area. And it's a big open air market. And it's enormous, sprawls over several blocks of just
sounds awesome.
So London, and it's kind of like a little bit of a counterculture. Well, sort of, I guess. Maybe, I mean, everything gets so hip that you just it's pretty hip there now, I'm sure as well. And
I bet that place smells like pumpkin spice latte right now.
And a lot of Indian food. But Camden Town's cool. And just interesting, to spend kind of spend a little time, and then there's so many wonderful places. I love just going to a place and just trying to just walk around, and get lost, and just
100%.
This is cool. Stumble into things when I can. But the Covent Gardens is really lovely. I mean, the first thing that struck me. Have y'all been before?
No.
Have y'all been to Europe?
I haven't.
So the first thing that struck me.
Layovers.
I went when I was able to go on a school trip when I was in 9th grade. Our history teacher, this wonderful woman named Sherry Owens, wanted to take her family to the UK, and she thought, what's going to make it cheaper is if I take a bunch of students with me. So we took like a family trip with she took a family trip with some students, and I don't know how that's actually what happened, but it was like she wanted to take a family vacation, and she just happened to take like 5 or 6 of us. Well, I think there was maybe 10 of us, so that was probably worked out a better deal. But anyway, it was amazing, and she's awesome. Her family's awesome, but it was pretty funny, and I got everybody in a bunch of trouble kind of for that. But anyway, that was the last night in London. But the first thing that struck me was the smell. It's like we don't have smells like that here. It's like it's deep, it's older. It's just like walking around the streets and walking into certain buildings, you smell. You can find it in certain places here, but it's not that old. It's like the 60s or 70s. Like you walk into certain gymnasiums and you're like, that's the 50s, But it smells.
It's got a nice,
but you know what I mean? Like it smells different.
A bouquet of asbestos.
Right. Yes. There's. Yeah, and so there's certain places you walk in and you're like, I've never smelled anything this old before. That's
interesting.
As a 14 or 15-year-old kid, I don't know what my if I had gone over for the first time in this part of my life, and maybe I wouldn't be thinking about smell like that, or maybe I would, I don't know. But as a 14, that's what struck me first, right off the bat. It was just like, oh my God, what is this? And I fell in love with it, I
mean, as much of, like London is known for being completely made out of wood right before that big fire. Yeah. And there's probably a lot of really old structures that still have some of that left over, old rafters and,
I would imagine,
and frames and stuff. So that old wood with all those historic smells in them just lingering around for centuries.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
I would have never thought of that.
I will say also, there's a street called Denmark Street in London, and it's like this L-shaped street, but it's like the music street, and I guess just over hundreds of years has been, so it's kind of like, and I stumbled onto it by accident, It's where I got my my electric resonator made. There's a guy that has a workshop there, but that's where Orange amplifiers are from. And
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah,
so if
those
you're
are really
into that
popular.
so if you're into that kind of thing, Denmark's a good street to check out. Man, there's just it's hard.
I've got your phone number.
Yeah, you got.
Yeah.
I'll be texting you.
Hit me up.
But we're
And
looking
I'll-
at only doing like getting in, I think it was like Thursday morning 'cause it's an overnight flight. And then having Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday we're leaving out to go to, our plan is to go to Iceland.
Oh, cool.
From there for a few days.
Oh,
And then,
lovely.
and then we'll be back in London
For a night, yeah.
tonight. So.
Well, what I'll do is I'll try to get y'all in touch with a buddy or two because the best way to
Oh,
see
yeah.
any town is with a local.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So I'll get y'all in touch with Andy.
In fact, if they got a spare room and could save us a couple $1,000s.
If y'all bring over your equipment and you introduce them to your last Texas audience, you know.
Hell yeah. No, you know what? Maybe.
He's in a cool duo now. But yeah, I'll get y'all in touch. I'll get y'all in touch with somebody, Andy or somebody. I got friends in London.
Pretty cool.
I know people.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's bring it back to this side of the,
Okay.
the big wet thing. All right, so we left off TCU
Yeah.
06 is whenever you got back.
I was there for a semester, so I got back December 04.
Okay.
And then I had my spring semester, and I graduated in May of 05. And then I'd been working at Red Lobster for a couple of years. Of course, I had quit before I went to London.
Those biscuits, man.
Those biscuits, man. I've eaten them in every way you can eat them, with every kind of topping. I've had them with honey mustard. I've had them with,
Was there a time
tartar sauce. I've had them with...
Was there a time in your life when you were living off those biscuits?
I never lived off of them because you get tired of a thing, especially that rich. You
Yeah.
get tired of a thing kind of quickly.
The reason I ask is because whenever I first moved out of my parents' house, all of our friends were working at restaurants, and we
Yeah.
would live off the Texas Roadhouse house salad and the rolls because that's what was available.
Yeah.
Of course, I was 17, so
Right. Yeah. No, I had a lot of them, but at that time of my life, I was probably living on the Jack in the Box dollar menu.
nice.
I would get the what was it? The breakfast Jack. I would get that regularly. That was breakfast a lot. That was like $1, and the dollar chicken sandwich. Yeah, I did that until I got a bad one. And
yeah.
it takes like one bad. Like I had one bad chicken nugget in like sixth grade at McDonald's. I was like, never again.
Yeah.
What the hell was that? You know, it was
Yeah.
like this purple thing. Oh,
Yeah, and I've gotten sick from Jack in the Box too, so I won't touch it.
right. Yeah, you have to have that one experience, and then you're like, well, that's ruined for me now.
It was the 49-cent party burrito at Taco Bueno for me.
Yeah.
That's the one I lived off of.
Sounds sketchy.
Well, they had the condiment bar, you know?
Yeah.
You just take as much as you wanted.
Right.
So I'd take that 49-cent burrito, I'd open it up, and I'd put like a pound of pico on it.
There you go.
And the onions.
That's getting
and
that
the
bang.
cilantro.
That's getting that
and
bang
a
for your buck.
gallon of the salsa.
That's probably what it was, the condiment bar, not the...
Oh, no, Bueno's good. Jack in the Box is one that made me sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few things on it. Southern Comfort I can't do.
Oh.
Tequila.
SoCo turns me
and
into
tequila
a
are
different human.
cool. Yeah, Southern Comfort I had. I drank when I was in. Me and this friend split a bottle in high school, and we didn't know anything about drinking hardly. I mean, I knew a little bit, but not much. Not that I shouldn't drink half that bottle, but I had to get my half. I thinking, well, I'll pay for half. I better get this. And me and my Boston Terrier ended up in the yard that night for a while. And
SoCo's so dangerous.
so I haven't been able to like smell it, look at it. Like once somebody surprised me, but they didn't know, but with a shot, I was like, oh, never again. And then chicken nuggets from McDonald's, and then that chicken sandwich from Jack in the Box. That one time was just like, man, that was such a good $1 for so long. But yeah, so I was working Red Lobster, and I've been waiting tables there, and I graduated in 05. So I spent another year waiting tables, and at night we were playing music. I'd gotten a little more serious, after the London trip. I thought, well, maybe this is something. So when I graduated, my rough plan had been to just basically move to Spain and try to learn and teach English as a second language and get fluent in Spanish. And then if I enjoyed teaching, maybe become a professor or go back to school or something. But that was kind of my okay, I graduated, I'm just going to go travel for a while, and kind of this would be a cool way to do it. There's that global TESOL or whatever it is that you can teach as a second language.
What's so interesting about that is you're the second Fort Worth musician that I've talked to that had that exact same plan.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's like a natural progression.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Through those channels.
And that was kind of like just in the back, because I didn't know what I really wanted to do.
Right.
You know, I just knew I didn't want to have a suit, and I didn't want to go to a job at 9 o'clock. And
Right.
you know, I knew that was not for me.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out what that meant. And but anyway, when I graduated, I was like, well, I'm in this band, you know, and you think at 22, oh, there's windows for that. Yeah, there was a big window at that point, but you see, there's windows for these things, you know, so I better stay in the band, see what happens. And so I waited tables for about a year, and then I booked a 5-week tour for the band up to north of Seattle and back. And
Nice.
And so Catfish Whiskey went on our little run, and I had to quit my job because they weren't going to, Red Lobster wasn't going to give me 5 weeks just to like go hang out in the Pacific Northwest. And so when I got back, I was like, I'm unemployed. I wasn't making anything at Red Lobster because I was working mostly lunch shifts, and people, you know, you get 3 table sections and 3 people get salad and coffee, and you're like, well, I guess I got $12 today for my 4 hours versus, you know, you play 4-hour gig, you're at least going to make a couple $100,
Right.
you know, whatever at that time. So it just made sense. So that was that was my last day job. I briefly worked.
That was your last day job.
May of 2006.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I briefly helped out a friend by driving. Do y'all remember Sweet and Sassy? When it was, so it was in that, you know, that shopping center. It's on Barry, and is it Hewlin that crosses there? And there's like the Red Hot and Blue and the DSW shoes, and there's a Tom Thumb. Anyway, there used to be, and there may still be, it was called Sweet and Sassy.
Okay.
And it was like
It was a barbecue joint, wasn't it?
No, it was like a little girl's birthday paradise was what it was meant to be. But you went and picked them up in like a pink limousine that said Sweet and Sassy across the side of them, and you took them to this place, and they had like makeup, and they dressed like princesses, and they had like a dance party, and it was like a thing for girls to do for birthday parties, you know.
Do you have a picture of you driving that thing?
I do not.
Oh
I
my
do
god!
not,
Because
but
that would totally be the thumbnail
my
for this
God.
episode.
No, I wish I did. I may could still find. It was Anna Kate Tripp's wife that was working there somehow, helping manage or something, and they were like, "Man, we could really use like, you know, the occasional limo driver."
Cover
and
down
I was
for us,
like,
yeah.
"I am in for this. This is hilarious," and it was really funny. I think I did about maybe 6 shifts. You know,
Yeah.
I think it paid like $50, you know, and you basically like. The driving was the least amount of it. Most of it was waiting.
Yeah.
You know, because
Hanging out.
you're in a pink limo and you're just like, well, this is funny. You know, people pull up next to you and they're like,
Who is in there? What is that?
So
It's like a Mary Kay limousine.
well, and actually, my mom does Mary Kay. She's a national sales director, and I've taken many cars of her pink Cadillacs on tours, and I just actually took her. I had a family reunion up in Tennessee on my dad's side, and I took the pink Cadillac up there for
Beautiful.
that. Yeah, and it is confusing because people come by and they look at you and they're like, "What do you look?" Oh yeah, I'm in a pink car. Okay. Why is this person staring? Oh yeah, okay.
Trying to start
So
some shit. Oh,
Mary Kay
yeah,
all over it. Yeah, exactly. So I have that experience too. Yeah, but the Sweet and Sassy limousine was like girl pink, you know, not like the Mary Kay is kind of like a champagne salmon now. It's not like a real old school pink Cadillac pink, but the Sweet and Sassy was like bubble gum, you know, like boom. It wasn't like, is that a pink car? It was like, that's a pink car.
Folks, if you are listening to this and you have a picture of Keegan McInroe in a pink limousine, we need that photo, please.
There were definitely lots of pictures taken. But I don't think I was in any of them. I think I was standing over to the side, like, all right, girls, let's get in the car. You know, the parents taking the pictures.
You talk to Tripp's wife.
You know,
Tripp's wife.
AK probably has some photos. Yeah, AK slant a slate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you go on, you're gigging regularly. You got away from the daytime job, and you're just out on your own playing your music.
Yeah,
that's
since
awesome.
2006 that's been it.
Damn, that's wild. And you still have your mental faculties about you.
I mean,
how did you manage that?
I was 25 minutes late today, and I forgot my guitar, so
it's okay. We were going to have Keegan play live for you today, guys, but we're going to do that next time for sure.
Yeah, Next time would be great. I'm sorry about that.
No, it works out because I kind of briefly showed you the setup we have here and
I do have a mic
that?
stand.
A small bandstand there. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just a solo
it looks
setup.
Yeah, it looks like it's like maybe some sort of a guitar holder or maybe a music stand holder.
That's an equipment stand and a C clamp that I have like a tabletop microphone stand, and I C clamp that thing to the equipment stand.
It looks actually very stable. It would work.
I wouldn't touch it.
I
mean, if you wanted it to remain in that configuration, I wouldn't touch it. But yeah.
And I do have another mic stand.
I figured you might,
so
but
that would have been okay. Oh well. But yeah, it's nice to be here. I'm sorry I'm late.
No, don't worry.
My
about
mental
it.
faculties are waking up and about a quarter firing at this point.
Yeah. Well, for somebody that's been in that lifestyle for that many years, I think that there's a kind of an image that people would associate with somebody that's been in the music industry for that long. You hear so many bad stories about people just not being able to manage that lifestyle along with kind of a professional mindset like you clearly have. So
yeah.
That's an accomplishment.
Professional hobo. A professional traveler. No, I think you're right. It is very easy, and it's not just music. Anything that you're doing independently, it's where you have to be the engine that moves you, right? Like nobody's going to be like, "Hey,
time to go to work.
Time to go to work. Hey, you came to work. Here's your thing."
Yeah,
and if you keep going to the thing, you're going to keep getting the check every time. It's stability, I think they call it.
Right. I've heard of this.
Yeah, you've heard
stability,
of this thing, right? Right. And for me, I feel I don't enjoy that sort of stability. I like each day. I feel the most alive when each day has new things to have to figure out. Yeah. And I try to leave as much open-ended as I can so that can happen. Yeah. And so for me, music has just been this really. I've been very blessed that it worked this way because I did not see this as a thing. But it's been a very wonderful vehicle to try and carve out a meaningful life for myself. Something to so. Of course, there's things that I'm very fortunate I survived. My dumber days, and you think that, and then you have a dumb day, and you're like, "Man, I thought those dumb days were behind me.
But I was done with this.
Oh, I'm still so lucky I'm here." And but in all seriousness, you start to also, as you get older a little bit, you start to think, I better start doing something to kind of take care of the vessel, and so I do a few things to try to kind of make sure that I'm always still driving the bus. The people that I know that have developed serious problems, it just got on top of them one day. It was like, oh yeah, I used to be able to just have a drink. And now I got to wake up and have one, or my body will start to demand that and everybody I know, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I knew pretty early I had a problem. It's always like, so I take a month every year at the beginning of the year. I kind of cleanse and reset. And it's a dietary, but also, any sort of intoxicants.
A self-check.
Yeah.
Just
to see, like, can I say no, And I do a lot of times during the year as well. But it also makes me feel good about like I kind of imagine it like I clean the car up real nice and pretty so I can go off-roading for 11 months. But it makes you more conscious though in those 11 months of what you are putting into your body, like how things feel and how, because you do. And one of the things I realize is that I'm just an idiot. Like I think during like 11 months out of the year, I think, well, did I do this because I had a drink last night? It's like, no. When you're sober for 30 days and you think, no, you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
This is just how you. It's like, did I forget that thing? Because no,
it's baseline. This is my baseline.
So, but it does kind of help me keep myself in check a little bit.
Yeah. And
I think that's important because freedom is for me one of the very most important things. But to really be free, you have to have the option to completely screw it up and to fall and to fail and to die or to do whatever. To be really free is very dangerous actually. And so a lot of people, we live in a world, of course, where you have to find a balance between allowing people to be free and having order in things like this. but even within yourself, you have to do that. And so, I've definitely pushed in different directions, like how free can I be, you know? And I find that, you know, and I think this is, you know, it's definitely not me. This is all kinds of philosophies and religions and people and whatever, but just, you know, the balance between getting done what needs to be done, but also, you know, but also enjoying getting the most juice from the lemon,
right?
You know,
got to have a little bit of YOLO in there, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's like I was reading a thing the other day, and I think it was like John Stamos talking about his last time with Bob Saget. And he was just saying, you know, like, you never know when the last time you see a person's going to be, so always have that last cup of coffee, or that somebody wants to use, oh, would you just stay and do this thing? It's like, yes, I will, you know. Yeah. So I do think in those terms. I was one of my so I have a degree in religion and a degree in philosophy, and in the philosophy courses I was taking, I encountered Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence, or the greatest weight. And are y'all familiar with Nietzsche's?
No, but I'm going to dig this. So
he has this thought experiment, and whether there's, I guess, my good buddy Blake Hester would be much better. Dr. Blake Hester would be much better at talking about this than me. I suppose there's some debate, supposedly, about whether this was his actual metaphysics. But all of that aside, the thought experiment itself is what hit me, and I think that was the point. So he says, imagine that one night, I'm going to paraphrase, okay? Sure. He says, imagine one night into your heart of hearts, into your loneliest of lonelies, creeps this demon. And this demon says to you, you speck of dust, every detail of your life, from the spider crawling across the wall there, to your decision to eat Honey Nut Cheerios this morning, you know, everything, you're damned to repeat eternally. And he says, would you not throw yourself on the ground and wail and gnash your teeth and say, no?
Right.
Or would you say, thank you, you are a god, sir, you know?
The point being
the point
spend every day making it important.
If you really take this, and it's, you know, he said it would sit on your shoulders like the greatest weight, or this idea of eternal recurrence, because Nietzsche is an atheist. You know, there was no afterlife, so in a way, this is an eternity. Whatever we do, you know, Jean-Paul Sartre talks like we're the sum of our choices, basically. Like, you know, we choose our realities through the choices that we make in many ways. Obviously, there's, you know, nature, nurture. But in many ways, we get to choose what our reality looks like, and that happens through choice. And so there's choice and responsibility. Back to the freedom thing, right? But when I read that, I just thought, yeah, I need to live in a way in which if I had to live this life over and over and over again, I wouldn't get tired of it. I wouldn't be like
that day.
Well, it doesn't mean that every single day you have to go out and like climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Someday it may be like I would eternally will myself to be watching 10 hours of Lord of the Rings movies right now. Yeah. You know, I've really got to see these, and then every single time I'm going to need to see this.
Yeah.
So I don't take it as like,
so the span of a lifetime.
Right. Well, well, what are you doing on a given? Are you doing are you taking those 10 hours because you've been working so hard and you need to reset, and that's what your body needs? Are you taking those 10 hours because that's what you do every day, and you're just kind of checked out, and you're just going through your rut, and you're just walking along your road, and then you look down and you say, wow, I've been watching 18,000 hours of Seinfeld for the last 4 years. What else have I done?
Shit, I just drank half a bottle of SoCo.
Right. Exactly.
I'm in the
what am I doing in
yard
this yard
now? What's going on?
I would do this every time. You know. So yeah, it's not that every day has to be like, you know, winning every moment. It's just
I got tiger blood coursing through.
Right. It's like, yeah, is what I'm doing today getting me where I want to be? You know, helping me be who I want to be. And am I claiming my responsibility and my ability to make the day I want to see happen?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the idea, is that you take responsibility for, and so getting back to kind of like working as a freelance artist, you know, you kind of have to do that. It's like if you want to do something, you basically have to do it, because there's nobody that's going to just come find you in your house and say, "Oh man,
There's Keegan.
there you are."
Been looking everywhere for you.
I was watching this, and it's a little haunting. I was watching an interview with Merle Haggard a few days ago, and you may have seen this. It was kind of circulating for a minute, but he was talking about, like, I think it was Dan Rather interviewing him, and he says, "Why are you still out here on the road?" This is obviously years ago. Merle's dead now, but he says, "Why are you still out there doing it?" And he goes, and Merle's response was like, well, basically, he would get very lonely. Of course, he says, if you want to be left alone, people will leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to go away, the world will forget about you.
In a minute.
It was what his point was, And so, yeah, the world's, and I've had this conversation with another artist the other day that had been out of the scene for a while and came back, and it's like, yeah, if you're not in the scene and you're not doing things, you disappear from kind of the, I mean, you may have something that's left over or whatever, but eventually, we all go away. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it is. Yeah. And so if you want something, now, then what are the steps to get that thing that I want now, whether that be a style of life, which for me, music suits very well. My favorite things are travel and meeting people and having conversations and seeing new things and experiencing new things. It's like, wow, I get to do this through this really cool vehicle of music, where when I go into a city or wherever, especially when you're traveling, then you're not seeing, especially at this level, right, where I'm basically doing all the booking and all the tour managing and all the everything. So when I book a show, I know who it's booked with or the bartender that it's booked with. I know where, I'm in communication with all these people. Then you get to the city, now you have an inside track already with those people, plus bartenders, plus whoever comes to see you. So you're getting to see the world oftentimes through the eyes of locals in places like this. And so for me, this is like the perfect job. Yeah.
And you're at the level that you're comfortable with, it sounds like.
Well, no. I think that's important that you not be comfortable, right? Because then you would be like, then you start to get complacent and take things for granted. But also, you get older, and as you get older, you need other things. Like the first thing I started to notice was, I started, when I traveled in Europe about half the year from 2011 to 2012 to 2019, and in the beginning, it was just whatever was cheapest was fine with me. If I had a night off, or if the place I was playing, which usually European venues are pretty good about putting you up somewhere.
So you're talking about the hotel stays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if I wasn't put up, then I would look at hostels, like whatever's cheapest. Right. Oh, this is a bed in a 26 bedroom mixed dormitory style thing. Cool.
Got hot water, maybe?
Yeah. $11, great. One shared bathroom, fine.
Let's do this.
And then over the years, I started to notice that I was willing to spend a little bit more for like the 8-bedroom, or the 6-bed. And then it was like, well, I kind of want my own space, And so you do realize that, like, you don't want to be in your 60s playing the coffee shop necessarily. I mean, it depends on the coffee shop, obviously. Right. But like that level, you want to see growth, right? You want to see growth. And so I think that as you get older, you definitely start to realize that, okay, well, I can't be a hobo completely forever. I got to like the last 2 years, it's been the first time since 2011 I've had like an actual place of my, like where I was a base of operations that wasn't somewhere else,
right?
Transient.
Running around,
and that's been really nice. Actually, I was like, wow, I have a refrigerator. All of a sudden, I've never had a refrigerator before, And my dog has her own space, and my dog's like, I love this. Why didn't we do this years ago? So yeah, I think you can't. I can't. I don't want to stay in only the same place. I would like to, see growth and things, and it would be lovely to eventually have a team. Yeah. So that I'm not having to, like I was saying when I pulled up and I'm late, and it's not an excuse. It's just I've been a little scattered. I got quite a few little irons in the fire, and and it does. As fire does, it sucks up the oxygen for creative things sometimes, and it'd be nice to focus on some of those things more. So having a team and things like that would be a cool thing, and so I do want to see growth. But yeah, as far as it goes, the overall idea, I love,
Speaking about a team,
creative there.
You just put out an album recently, didn't you, or a single?
Yeah, I put out an album called Agnes.
Okay, and what studio did you cut that one out of?
That's actually, we did that in Terlingua, Texas.
That's right.
Yeah, out at
whose studio is that?
It wasn't a studio. It's the Santa Ynez Church. It's
Okay.
So if you have you been
Bits and pieces of this is coming back.
Yeah, have you been
I've
to
been
Terlingua?
through Terlingua. Everything was closed because we burned through there at like 11 a.m.
Okay.
And you probably know this, but like Stardust and all these
Oh,
other
yeah.
cool little spots,
Yeah,
they don't open
Starlight.
until 4.
Right. Yeah.
Starlight, is that
Starlight?
it? Okay.
Yeah, the theater. Played there.
Been
a few
through there
times.
one time.
Well, right behind that theater is an old church. It's an Adobe early 19th century or early 20th century. Sorry, Adobe mission there, called Santa Ynez.
Okay.
And so, do you know Tony Drury?
I don't.
Tony's awesome. Shout out to Tony Drury.
Hey, Tony.
He's in a band called Fish Fry Bingo around here for a while,
Okay.
and several other projects. But he was doing like the beer workshops for Tulips when they first opened. Still does some stuff around town, but he's living out in Terlingua. So I was visiting with him, hanging out with him back in. I'd been making my trips out there for a while, but back in May of 2022, and we met a guy on the porch there in front of Starlight, Bill Palmer. And Bill Palmer is from New Mexico and has a studio in New Mexico, but he had been and was at that day recording artists in this church and just has great acoustics. And he kind of likes the mobile recording kind of thing. And
An analog guy.
well, I mean, yeah, maybe as well. The field recording stuff, I think we were mostly digital.
Yeah.
With the stuff that he used. But anyway, the kind of location based, finding interesting spaces that have their own sound versus having a kind of a sonically neutral place to just make it sound like this is just this pure.
You wanted that environment to be
I've been thinking about some sort of destination kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I met Bill, and he says, "Yeah, I'm recording this guy in the church." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So we exchange information. We talk about it. Within about 2 weeks, I think we decided, okay, November 2022, let's cut a record.
Nice.
So I had started actually an album with Grant Wilburn here in Fort Worth at 7013 Sound, and but it had kind of bogged down. There were a few things happening where it wasn't. We'd had a really good day, and then we weren't able to get back in. And then I went out to Terlingua, and we cut this record. I took Aiden Bubeck, Morris Holdall, and Forrest Massey with me, and we did several shows on the way out there. And then we spent 3 days in the church recording the album, and then we did a show in Lubbock on the way back, and to kind of help with costs. And then I went back in January with Gary Grammer, and we did a few overdubs. But by the end of January, the album was mixed and mastered.
Nice.
And I was like, well, I have this, so I'll just record, I'll just release this. And so I actually 2 days ago was in the studio wrapping up the Fort Worth project. But yeah, the album that just came out September 22nd was Agnes.
Nice.
And Agnes is, Santa Ynez is the name of the church, and Ynez is a Spanish variation of Agnes.
Okay.
Which is a variation of a Greek word that means like pure. And she was a 12 or 13-year-old girl, depending on the story, before Christianity was adopted by the Roman Empire. And she has a very sad story. So when I decided, I didn't know anything about her, but when I decided to record in the church, I was like, well, I better figure out
Get some history.
Whose church I'm in.
Yeah.
Who is this Ynez, And her story is a very sad one, and so I read the variations on her story, and I wrote the song Agnes, and that kind of, I knew that I didn't want to just, I have a lot of songs, but I didn't want to go out there and just make a collection of songs. It's such an interesting place, Terlingua, and I kind of gravitate towards places that are, that aren't, like these days, everything just starts looking the same. You drive through certain towns, any town almost, and you see the same shopping center 5 times.
Yeah.
By the time you get through it, you see the same. What is it, like the PetSmart and the Office Depot and then the next 5 minutes later, it's the same. And the 10 Chick-fil-A's and the 18 McDonald's and the whatever. And there's not that in Terlingua. You go to Terlingua and you're like, I am in Terlingua. Somebody described it to me. I think it was Aiden Bubeck that said it's like Little House on the Prairie meets Mad Max.
100%.
And that's so cool. Like, that's what I want,
I can't wait to go back down there because we didn't get to spend any time in Terlingua. We just kind of went through. We walked into the one gift shop that was open across from the cemetery.
Yeah.
Took some pictures at the cemetery and then took off on our trip. But what a beautiful, unique portion of Texas.
It really is. And it's, there's some, you go to some places and they just kind of like resonate somehow, and you just kind of get, and it's, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for me, Terlingua really resonated, and that Big Bend region in general. But Alpine's pretty cool too. And but anyway, I wanted to write about the area, so I took a trip, and for the first time I took the train from Fort Worth to Austin. I think it goes to San Antonio, and then San Antonio to Alpine.
Oh, wow.
And then Tony picked me up in Alpine. This was in August of 2022. And I just went out there and didn't have anything booked. I just wanted to research, talk to people, get stories, collect, whatever. And then came back, wrote the album, and went in November and recorded it. Wrote one song after the second day in the church we'd recorded. Everybody had gone down to the Starlight Theater, so you could hear them. I was in the church by myself. I've been sipping on a little tequila all day to kind of keep myself warmed up.
When in Rome,
yeah, down by the border, and so they had all gone down, and I was sitting in there, and this guy that I had met on my previous trip, who was from Fort Worth, but he kept circling into Terlingua, and he was kind of a traveler, drifter kind of fella, and he told me, it seems. And he told me that he had, at one point when he had first got to Terlingua, they had put him up in like so when you walk into the church, it's just this little single room kind of thing, but there is a door, and then in that, I guess there's a room back there, which they put him in. And he was saying to me that basically, I don't know, but I think that's where they stored dead bodies because there was all kinds of, he was telling me all kinds of these stories. So I'm sitting there in the church, everybody had walked down, and I'm sitting there in the pews, and it was candles in there, it's very vibey, and I'd been thinking I wanted to write another song, and then that story started coming to me, and I started writing Chisos Mission Blues, which is basically the result was I had all these loose ends, these dangling participles, these hanging chads just in my head of like little pieces of stories that were cool, little colors and little moments that I wanted to somehow, but it didn't make sense,
Yeah.
And so that's how they all came out. It was just like this like Dylan-esque kind of free association, but it's not. It's each stanza is it's one of the stories that I wanted to, or one of the moments, and so that was written, and then we recorded it the next day. So the album is very much
that might be
Big Ben Terlingua centric.
That might be the song you need to share with our listeners when you email it to me.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
If you can do that today, because we're going to put this episode out Monday, and that can be a little teaser for this album.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love
What's
to
the name of the album again?
The album is called Agnes.
Okay.
And the song that we're talking about is Chisos Mission Blues.
Okay.
And so the Chisos Mining Company is the company that basically, so Terlingua was a boom town.
Right.
They were mining
Mercury,
yeah. Cinnabar is the ore that you get that mercury is derived from.
Okay.
I didn't know that either, but when I went there, I was like, I better figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, so one of the songs, Boom or Bust, is about this situation on the album, and because they were using that mercury in a detonation device for bombs. So that World War I, World War II, there was a big boom. Terlingua, that's basically how they, and then when that went bust. But that was the Chisos Mining Company is the point anyway.
Yeah.
So that was, so the Chisos Mining trading post or whatever's up there next to the, to the Starlight Theater.
Yeah.
And the Santa Ynez Church is also the Chisos Mission.
Right.
That's and the Chisos Mountains are there.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
The Chisos Mission.
All the tie-ins.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Keegan, we're out of time, brother.
Right on. Well, that was quick.
I know it really was. Next time, let's we'll come up with a different time to kind of work with everybody's schedule. But I would love to have you on very soon.
Yeah,
rather than,
I would love to do that.
We have a habit of sitting down with folks and then 6 months will go by and I'm like, shit, we haven't had you on the show in forever. So if we could just, before you leave today, we'll schedule another one.
I would love to.
And get you in here and we can do I can already tell we need to do a longer episode with Keegan.
I'm down.
You got so many stories.
Oh, I got lots of stories. Yeah,
I had a lot more questions.
And then if you send me on a pig trail, I'll just keep going until I get herded back over.
We do rabbit trails. Pigs scare me.
Okay, makes sense.
Where can people find your album? Where can they find your content?
So KeeganMcinroe.com is an easy one that'll send you anywhere you want to be. But I'm on Spotify, I'm on iTunes, name it. It's pretty much out there.
Do you have any residencies going right now?
I don't have any residencies going at the moment. I'm doing a Halloween show on October 31st here in Fort Worth at Lola's with Katie Robertson and Jimmy Hinkle. It's going to be Keegan and Katie and Jimmy Oh My, a
saw
Wizard
that.
of Oz Halloween. And we have lots of special guests and bands. That's going to be awesome. And then on November 2nd, I'm playing at Magnolia Motor Lounge with the band. Then I'm going Lubbock at the Blue Light, back to Terlingua, back to Alpine, and then a month over in Germany. Yeah, and then I'll be back a few shows probably to end the year, but that's pretty much it.
I've already been promoting your show for Lola's. That's awesome, and I love the artwork. Whoever did that,
I did
kicks
that.
ass. You did that?
Yeah,
That's so badass.
Oh, thanks.
But anytime you've got anything, now that we've introduced you to the Fort Worth Roots podcast audience, anytime you've got something to promote, if you'll tag Fort Worth Roots, we'll make sure and put that
that's
out
awesome,
there for
man.
you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll
absolutely.
do that. Yeah.
So, before you get out of here, let's make sure and put something on the calendar. I know we got to get our co-host out of here. She's got to be at work here in a minute. She still hasn't eaten yet.
My gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, absolutely. It's totally good.
It's not that good. I'm really sorry. I'll be better. I'm usually actually not. I am punctual most of the time.
Keegan,
Miss some flights, some trains. I've missed some trains. I've missed some flights, but
it's all right.
I usually make my podcast.
We're not going to call you late to the show, Keegan. We're going to stick with sneaky ass like Keegan for now until we come up with a better nickname for you.
Well, be careful because I'm always listening now. I could be in the conversation. You don't even know it.
Oh, trust me. I've ran into situations before where I've said things not really fully thinking out how it sounded, and I've had people reach back out to me like, "Man, I can't believe you said this," and I'm like, "Oh, I did not mean it like that." So I try to be extremely intentional with
well, even being intentional,
with my verbiage.
It's hard. Misunderstanding run amok.
Yeah. But if you're ever listening to something and you think that I meant it in any way other than out of love and gratitude, you're wrong.
There you go. And he says that with love and gratitude. That's right.
All right, so we're out of here. Keegan, thank you so much. And we'll have all that information in the show notes. And then before you get out of here, we're going to set another date.
Please.
All right. And thank y'all for listening. We'll see you next week. See you. Keegan Mcinroe, everybody. Thank you, Keegan, for being on the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Megan Eilrich, thank you for co-hosting this one. One more time for Rachel Kelly, thank you for being a monthly subscriber, and happy birthday. Awesome. If you guys are interested in seeing what it looks like being a supporter of the Fort Worth Roots podcast, you can email me, media@fortworthroots.com, and we'll send you that information. Rachel Kelly's going to get a laser-engraved coffee mug and a goodie bag from our last event. And she's going to be listed in every single one of our podcast episodes as a contributor for here on out. And lots of other perks and stuff. But anyway, she chose to support the show because she believes in what we're doing. And we really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rachel Kelly. All right. Keegan Mcinroe. We're going to get him back on the show. We've already set some dates. I'm not going to tell you what it is because we're still kind of playing that one by ear. But we've got some dates written down like we said we would during the episode. Stay tuned because here in just a moment we're going to play a track from Mr. Keegan Mcinroe off of his new album. And if you guys are interested in taking a look at Keegan McEnroe's stuff, it'll be in the show notes. You can also get him on Instagram at Keegan McEnroe Music. And McEnroe is McInroe. But it will be in the show notes. Easy to find. All right. Let's talk about these sponsors. Pouring Glory. Y'all have heard me talk about these guys for a long time. They've been sponsors for many, many months. And they were friends before they became sponsors. Really love this place. Y'all need to go check it out. It's 1001 Bryan Avenue, Fort Worth, Texas, just off South Main Street and I-35, 1 block north of Rosedale. Pouring Glory is a growler refilling station that serves craft beer and award-winning food with live music. They've always got great bands on stage and no cover. So you can go in there and watch a just absolutely awesome musician, have some good food, good beer. Like I said, I don't think there's ever a cover. Dog friendly, and they have something called Dog Park Sundays from, I think, 11 to 4. Bring the doggos. You can let them off the leash, and they can run wild and associate with the other fur babies. It's a good time. And you're missing out if you haven't seen this place, Pouring Glory. Body Machine Fitness, 2300 West 7th Street, Fort Worth, Texas, offers a truly one-of-a-kind fitness experience. Your first class has already been paid for, and we'll go with you. Myself and the co-host for the show will go with you. You just got to DM us, email us, something. But go set up the appointment first. BodyMachineFitness.com is where you go to schedule your first high-energy cardio strength group fitness class with the best in industry trainers, cutting-edge audio and lighting systems. Show up early or stay after the class for the IR sauna and nutritious snacks in the lobby. I'm not kidding. We will go with you to one of these classes here in Fort Worth, Texas. Body Machine Fitness is located just off of 7th Street. I mean, it's literally on 7th Street, but it's in a little shopping center. So, anyway, there's that. Okay, where were we? McFly's Pub, 6104 LTJG, Barnett Road in Fort Worth, Texas, is a 1980s Back to the Future themed bar with a very impressive outdoor area and fire pit. Hang out and bring some friends for pool, darts, cornhole, jumbo Jenga, or catch a live event. Tommy Luke does open mic night there every Tuesday, so you might want to go check that out. We got some awesome Fort Worth legends hitting up that stage weekly. There's never a cover, so go check that out. Also, November 4th, we are going to be out there accepting submissions from local artists at McFly's. If you are a musician and you would like to have your music showcased on our show, come on out to McFly's November 4th at 2:30 p.m. and just fill out a little form. You'll need to email or Dropbox me the file, and then we'll get that on our playlist. Again, that is November 4th for our little meetup, 2 o'clock. Don't miss it. And if you haven't checked out McFly's, you're missing out. You got to go see that too. Cowtown Nutrition, located at 5430 River Oaks Blvd. They offer a healthy alternative to that compulsory fast food craving. You can also load up on your favorite Herbalife products and learn about their fitness groups that they hold on location at Cowtown Nutrition. Check them out on Instagram at Cowtown_nutrition. Y'all heard me talk about crew wear at the beginning of the episode. If you're watching me on, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the shirt I'm wearing. I wear this thing everywhere I go. It's the Funky Town 817 shirt. And they got it in different colors too. So if you don't want black and white, you can get it in TCU purple if you want. I believe that's an option. Don't quote me on that. But for crew wear, just go to our website and you can get information on all our sponsors by going to our website and hitting the drop-down menu for trusted sponsors. And that is fortworthroots.com. Woodpost Metalworks, they are the ones that are building the sign that's about to go on the front of the studio. And let me tell you something. I got a picture of this thing and it is awesome. It's the best ever. So if you need something done professionally, affordably, and quickly, you need to talk to these guys at woodpostmetalworks.com. Use offer code podcast817 at checkout and get 10% off. They specialize in metal signs with or without LED backlighting, fence and gate repair, or installation, light steel fabrication, industrial plasma cutting, and more. Houck Walker Originals. Those are the folks that make these custom lasered stainless steel coffee mugs that I love and everybody else that sees them loves them. Keegan McInroe actually got one of these today. Houck Walker Originals. Go to houckwalker.com. They offer a huge variety of unique and personalized gifts. Also, laser engraving to customize just about anything you can think of. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck. You can go to roofingsolutionsHouck.com or give them a call, 817-882-6520. Commercial or residential roofing. They are your solution. And if you call them and tell them that you heard about them on the Fort Worth Roots podcast, they will give you 50% off a roofing tune-up. I think we got everybody. Verifying. Yep, looking good. Got crew wear, Cowtown Nutrition, all the OGs and all the new ones. Guys, these sponsors of ours have been nice enough to help us keep the lights on here at Fort Worth Roots Podcast, so we really hope that you guys will give them a little love, show them some support, and consider them next time you're buying something here in the local community. One more time, thank you, Keegan McInroe, for being on the Fort Worth Roots Podcast. We are looking forward to having you on the show again here very soon. Thank you, Megan, for being a wonderful co-host in this episode, and all the ones to follow. And one more time to our new subscriber, our monthly contributor, Rachel Kelly. Happy birthday, my friend. Thank you so much for being part of our community. And guys and gals, thank y'all for listening, and we will see you next week. See ya.
Spirits of the dead are singing in the room behind the altar, all out of tune. They say their bodies lay there cold before they lay down in a hole. Nobody sleeps, nobody can. They're up all night with those Chisos mission blues again. Yeah, they're singing 3 tongues, y hablas en 3 lenguas. Viva Terlingua. Cemetery jumps with the stories of the dead, and they ain't dead yet. Sign a contract on the hood. How don't these Chisos mission blues feel good? You can hear the living on a porch from these little white pews, telling tales, some might be true. A dog barks and it chews at his claws. The cicadas like a symphony, the chainsaws in the yard. The cock crows and the pussy purrs. Bats a mouse with those Chisos mission blues. How the scorpion mother, she eats her babe till she makes it out of a cave. Nobody sees where she goes. All her dead children gotta know. Murder, mercy, friend or foe. The score blitz moan those Chisos mission blues. Strokes his chin, takes a hit, grabs his lens. Down to the Rio, barefoot in the mud, he gives his blessing to the groom and the bride. Guitars explode, but it ain't nothing new. He's shit dangin' Chisos mission blues. Love, a man builds a house for his swinging neighbors, swinging spouse. But he gets locked out when his wife comes to play. How it burns him in a most vicious way. He shoots a lock, it ricochets. Now it's an eternal Chisos mission blues day. Laughs, licks his lips, yellow eye, playing his tricks. Did you see what you saw? Hard to know, could be wrong. He'll have you howling at the moon, howling Chisos mission blues. Mr. Perry, he brought his wife. She took one look, said no dice. Back to Chicago, she's never to return. Now Perry, he hangs his head and he groans. Sing with me, children, sing all at once. She ain't these Chisos mission blues nice. In their masks, sitting with the priests. Las familias de los mineros, with their hands on their knees. You can't hear it, but it's there. Behind the pictures, behind the stairs. Light a candle, say a prayer. Ask those Chisos mission blues in your ear. Spirits of the dead singing out of tune, rattling the cross of old Jesus. Little mission bell just jingles in the wind, and in walks a roadrunner with chili on his chin. 2 owls in the belfry both say who. Well, you know it's those Chisos Mission Blues.